So much, and good afternoon, everyone. I was going to say good morning, but here we are at 1 o'clock now, my time. So I'm so thrilled to be here today to share something that I'm very passionate about with all of you. So the goals for today, I'm hoping that they're very practical for you. I know some of you this may be a review and this might be totally new to some of you, but I hope that no matter what level you're at, that today you'll take away at least one new idea that you can use in your classroom or teaching, whether it's virtual or in person, with the structure of your class or the design of your content. 2, I hope that you learn at least one new skill or trick that you could apply today if you need to or want to. And then 3, I hope that you will feel at least 1% more confident about digital instruction, or that you're 1% more inspired to try something new. So throughout the webinar today, if you have any questions, please feel free to text us. So you would text the number 22333. So instead of messaging Aunt Franny, you're going to message 22333, and the message that you would send is Holy Lion 226. And so don't worry, it's not going anywhere. Again, so you would start at the top of, you'd start a new message, 22333, and then you would write to that person, Holy Lion 226. And you don't receive a text back, but you can type in your questions throughout the presentation as you think of it, or if you have a question about something, or maybe you didn't understand something. And of course, you can ask more than one question. So again, you won't get a text back, but Loyola will answer all your questions and send you a Word document with those answers after the presentation. Okay, so here we go. So as Amanda said, I am a curriculum specialist, but what I really, really love to do is instructional design and distance learning education. And I'm in my very last class of my PhD program. And it's been, the perfect timing actually for us in this program, because my cohort got to learn about and put into practice our entire education on e-learning and instruction all during the pandemic. So it's been a great time for research. And so I wanted to share with you a couple of findings that we have had so far, and they probably aren't very crazy. You've probably thought of these already. So research is showing us that right now, not only teachers, but stakeholders in the educational community have had an unrealistic expectation on teachers. And teachers themselves have had unrealistic expectations during this unprecedented time, both internally and externally. We have found that there is a strong need for instructional design, professional development training nationwide. And there's a need to lessen the transactional distance during e-learning. And transactional distance is the communication between the student and the teacher, and the student and other students. So right now, the distance, there's quite a gap, meaning that a student that might be at home in an e-learning environment is suffering in a way that they're not necessarily feeling a part of the group, and that they're not really having the experience that they would as they would in an in-classroom setting. So all of these things together, we've seen effects of social, emotional, mental health levels for teachers and students that are declining. So with that being said, today's goal is to shift your mindset a little bit and let you know that you're not alone. Feeling overwhelmed during this time is totally normal, and there are ways to get through this with less stress. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm not only an educator, but I'm also I'm also an instructional designer. And the biggest issue right now that we're facing, well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest issues we're facing is you all are teachers. Some of you might be instructional designers, but we're not all instructional designers. And the average person in society doesn't realize that they're two separate professions. And so during this time, we found that teachers are doing double duty. You're teaching and doing your craft, and it's very difficult. And then on top of it, you've been expected to be an instructional designer. So it's okay if you're not there yet. So I'm going to go through 5 tips today that I hope can help you as you get into the next half of the year. So tip number 1, this is what I told all of our teachers this year in the Diocese of Venice, is instead of designing your classroom lessons as you normally would, design your entire class lessons as if they were distance learning lessons, and then deliver those in person. So basically, if you have some students that are in the classroom, and then you might have 2 or 3 outside of the classroom, what we've experienced, or what we experienced last spring, was that our teachers were so overwhelmed because they were planning their normal lessons, and then the students that were distance learners, they were making something different for them and using the learning management system, or the LMS, for just those students. Whereas you're doing double duty. So if you switch your mindset and plan as if your entire class is online, you can still take all of those resources and deliver instruction in person, but it lessens the workload. So tip number 2 would be train your students how to use an LMS every day for every class. This sounds crazy, I know, but I promise you it works. And I was there once too, not knowing what an LMS is and how to even use one. And an example of LMS, if you're not familiar, would be Google Classroom or Canvas or Schoology. And those are places where it's basically the housing unit where you as the teacher can post assignments, you can grade assignments through them. And I'm going to be showing you today Google Classroom because that's the #1 used LMS for K-8 schools. So we'll be going over that a little bit today. And maybe in the future, we can go over the higher education, Canvas, and even Schoology, but they're all pretty similar. So the goal is to have your students start making the LMS a habit. So even if you're not using Google Classroom for the entire day, obviously you shouldn't be, but this could be a simple housing place for maybe it's where all the links to the e-textbooks are. Or maybe this is a link to where an entrance slip or an essential question. Or maybe it's I used to use it in my STEM class. For every single class, I used Google Classroom, and I would have a entrance slip at the beginning of discussion. So every day, grades 2 through 8, because 2 was the ones that started with Chromebooks, but 2 through 8 would come in, they'd sit down, they'd open their netbooks, and right away, they knew right to go to Google Classroom, and they would click on the post of that day, answer it, and then we'd start our class. And that came in very handy. And the reason I did that was because I was about to go on maternity leave. And so once all of my students were familiar with the system and they understood that they made it a habit, when I was gone, I was able to, have live videos in the LMS and post homework and answer questions and things like that. So this will make any transition to distance learning easier. In the event, God forbid, that we go back to full distance learning, and actually we're in Florida. I failed to mention that. So I'm in Florida, and our students are, a majority of our students are actually back in person. We have about 6% of our student population that are still distance learners. So I'm sure some of you actually might have full distance learning right now. All right, tip number 3, keep your learning management system organized and consistent for all classes. So if you teach, maybe if you teach just one class, then it can be easy to, keep it organized. If you're teaching multiple classes, let's say you're a second grade teacher and you teach all core subjects, your science learning management system should really look and feel almost the same as your math or English language arts in the way that you organize it. And this was actually a learning experience for myself. I have 3 children. And when we went to distance learning last spring, Google Classroom was really difficult from the perspective of a parent if it's not organized. And if you do use Google Classroom, you will know that it has some flaws in the fact that it is difficult to organize because you don't have the option of folders or modules like you would if you used Canvas or Schoology. But today I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that I've kind of discovered on how to organize it a little bit better, especially for our younger learners. I had a 3-year-old that was supposed to do distance learning last spring, and it pretty much was just a wash because I didn't know what was going on with his classroom's LMS, and he didn't know, and so we had a fun time at home. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to almost replicate a modular framework in Google Classroom today, to make it a little bit easier and to also eliminate, there's a certain button that you can click that will clean up your Google Classroom. When I found this out, I was thrilled. So I'll share that with you as well. Okay, so depending on what you teach or what grade level you teach, I'm going to show you 2 different ways. So you can organize your content by days of the week. To where, like, if I was in a primary grade level, I would probably do days of the week because I would keep it all in one spot. The students would know that every day they're going to have all their core classes. So in the event that a student, has to quarantine, they were exposed to someone with COVID and it's Sunday and they find this out, and now here comes Monday morning, they're not sick, but they have to quarantine for 10 days. They would know, I'm going to come onto my LMS, or the parent would know and follow along with the assignments of that day and the lesson of that day. It does take a little bit of prep work as far as, again, teaching the students how to use it, and then teaching the parents how to use it as well. But if you only teach one class, or maybe you teach religious education, you can also organize it in a way that's specifically by unit, or you could still do it by day, or you can kind of change it up to however it works best for you and your classroom and how you organize your classroom. So I'm going to show you how to add emojis. Today, everyone will learn how to do this. It's super easy, and it makes the LMS a little bit more inviting and engaging, and it's also that visual cue that's going to help separate your work and separate the assignments and keep the system a little bit more organized. It's a hack. So because you can't it's very limited in what you can do with Google Classroom. All right, so I'll show you how to do that. Also, I'm going to be giving you guys a link today. I have a lot of YouTube videos on different education technologies and how to use them. And so it's important that if you start dabbling in the different technologies, which some of them are great, but it's important to set the clear expectations and very clear procedures on how the students would use Padlet or a Nearpod or a Google Doc or a Flipgrid, no matter what class they're in. So that way, again, it's less confusing for the students, because I'll tell you firsthand, I had, a teacher would do, for my daughter, she was required to do a Flipgrid for English class, and then she was required to do a Flipgrid, which is a video posting, like they record themselves talking or explaining something or answering a question, and there were different requirements for each class, and it was just really confusing. So try to keep everything consistent as much as you can. Tip number 4, and I know I'm going fast, and I'm sorry that it seems like I'm going fast, but I have so much to show you guys. So we are recording, and so we'll send you out the link as well after the video of the recording. So if you missed something, you can rewind and pause. Okay, so this is a big one. So my master's thesis was all on technology and you know, how good technology can be and then how bad technology can be. And I'm, you know, have been a STEM professional, and I don't let my kids play on the iPad at home. They get an hour on the weekend, and that's it. And I'm huge into technology. I love robotics. I love technology, but I also know the dangers of technology. And something that was really concerning to me in this, and it's of no one's fault, of course, but moving into distance learning, we have seen across the country a misunderstanding of what that means. Distance learning doesn't mean that the student is on Zoom all day. And it doesn't mean that you're live streaming the entire class, the entire day. That's just completely incorrect on many levels, right? We wouldn't expect for our students to be online all day in our classroom. So why would we expect them to be online all day from home? So it's in research shows that the wrong use of technology, using technology in a way of just consumption or passive use, which means that they're just sitting there like a zombie, listening, watching, listening, watching. Maybe they're picking up some knowledge, but in using technology in that way is actually detrimental to our students' growth and development. So, so what does that look like though? Because there are different frameworks out there, but what I'm going to give you is kind of a best practice that's worked for me, and this is, and it is based on research as well. So I'm going to share that with you, but it's important to create a consistent schedule for daily live streaming for core classes. So let's say if you're teaching second grade, you want to make sure that every day on, or let's say the class starts at 8:30, every day from 8:30 to 8:45, I'm going to have the live stream on, and all the students in my class know how to get on that link, and the parents know how to get on that link. So in the event that I'm at home quarantining, or I'm a distance learner, it's the same every day. I know when to come on, and I know it's scheduled. So during that time though of distance of with some students. Or
Jennifer, you froze for a quick moment. So I just want to, I think you're back now and I think we can hear you, but the screen share stopped and we may have lost you. So let's see.
It looks like
okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you are back.
Okay, no problem. We go with it, right? Education technology, we just keep going. So all is well. Not going to let it get me down. All right. Okay, so moving on. All right, so for example, I'm going to give you a template. So I made some templates for all of you to use if you wish, different colors and things like that. And I'll give you the link. So it's important to make sure that if you are doing this where you're planning a distance learning classroom, or you have online instruction going on, that you try to keep it consistent in the same formula for each class. That way the students really know what's going on, and then it's actually easier for you as the teacher after a while. It does take a little bit of work, front-loaded work, but then it really does make your life easier. So this is just an example of how I might break up my class for online. And I'll show you here as well. So I like to break up the lesson for an online lesson to have 20% or so is normally, this is going to be wiggle room. So this is if you're at the beginning of class and maybe it's the beginning of the day and you have to take attendance and you have to see order whose lunch is ordered and whatever it might be, all those housekeeping tasks. It's not necessarily reviewing of old material. It can be, but that's something that you would figure out yourself as the teacher. But so we've allotted for 20% of pre-lesson, 20% of whole group. This is where we're on Zoom, the students sitting and watching, like all the students in class, and everyone's participating. This is the lecture type whole group learning portion of the class. And then the largest percentage, 30%, should really be either it's a breakaway, either it's small groups or partner work where they're working on comprehension strategy. And we know that students learn best when they're learning with each other and learning from each other. So once they've gotten the information that you want to give them, do breakout sessions. You can do breakout online or in person, or maybe they're just working with a partner, reviewing the material or working on a project or an assignment together. Then bring it back to whole group, review, go over again, what was the purpose of today, check for understanding. And then I always like to end with 20% of my lesson of individual work. I'm checking for comprehension. I'm helping those students that are, really not understanding. And then it's for differentiation too. So students that are done, they get to work on an advanced task or study something different. But this works really well in instructional design for online learning. And so I've made this tool for all of you. It's pretty easy, self-explanatory, but I'll just go through it really quick. So basically, what I used to do is I would have one of these per class that I would teach. And so I knew, and I would just have one laminated for each of my core subjects. So that way I knew and held myself accountable. Of course, it's flexible, but on average, I would want to make sure that I'm separating the lesson, because we've all been there where we start talking and we've talked for 60 minutes and half the class is asleep and they didn't get it and now they're going to a new class. So I kind of made this for you all. So let's say you teach a 60-minute class. You would just put 60 here, multiply that by 1%, and then you would get equals how many minutes is 1% of class. So I did that here where I said a 90-minute class times 1% is 0.9 minutes is 1% of class. So if I look at the percentages from the previous slide of the pre-lesson, whole group, breakaway, whole group wrap up, and then individual, I just take that 1% and I multiply it by each of the recommended percentage times. And then I have how many minutes I'm kind of my goal is. And so I have this for all of you in a link. And I also have this as well. So taking what we just made, or the percentage in times, I made out a little, this is kind of a lesson plan, I would say. It's not like a true full lesson plan, but this is more timing break apart for you. And if you were designing distance learning and you want to keep to those time frames, this is designed to help you with that. And so I've provided you with these templates as well. So if you scan this code with your phone or take a screenshot, but if you have an iPhone, you'll just go to the camera app. And all you do is you just hold it near the screen and it captures the, here, let me do a screenshot. It captures the QR code. And then at the very top, it brings you a link. And then that link is going to bring you to all of the tools and templates and things that I'm going to be talking about today. So again, you just open your camera app. If you're an Android user, I believe that the camera app also does the same thing. You might.
And Jennifer, we'll also include the link when we email you the recording so that you can click on that link and still get all of the documents that Jennifer's referencing.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So tip number 5 kind of goes with tip number 4, which is to intentionally plan for student collaboration during live stream portions of the day. So by using a template where you have a designated time where there has to be a collaborative activity, and you're pushing yourself and challenging yourself because maybe this isn't how you've designed lessons before, but I challenge you to try it. And I challenge you to see if you can, notice any differences and how the students are engaged, or how your time frees up a little bit to where you can work with those small groups and those partner students, and you can really spread yourself around the classroom virtually or in person. So the last thing that I was going to say is make sure to schedule regular check-in appointments with distant learners. So if you have students that have been home this whole time, or maybe for medical reasons, they are a full-time distance learner. If you're not meeting with them regularly, depending on the load of how many people you teach and whatnot, it would be ideal to check in with students once a day. But, if you're teaching 8 sections and you have 400 students, and 100 of them are at home, then obviously that doesn't work. But it's important to make sure to schedule regular check-ins just to make sure the students are doing okay and have it. And you might say to yourself, isn't that obvious? One would think, but it doesn't happen everywhere. All right, tip. I already did that one. Okay, so how can students collaborate in real time when they're at home? There are different digital technologies that you can use, and we do not have time today to go through all of them, but I'm going to give you kind of like a speed dating rendition of this, where I'll show you a couple different tools that allow for students to be actively engaged in the classroom in real time. So I'm going to show you all today how to create a hyperdoc. It's a new term, but basically they're documents that are hyperlinked. Students that are going through our school system today have grown up with touchable, instant click devices. And so when our students went from in-person to distance learning, the whole hyperlink craze became really popular. Because it's easy for students, it's easy for parents. Basically, this entire sheet here is clickable for students, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. So, okay, the last thing I was going to say before we get into tutorials is back to the initial tip, well, not the initial, I think it was tip number 2, of the amount of time that we want students to not be on Zoom all day long. Again, pre-recorded lessons should really be used sparingly. So if you are, I just met with a school last week, and we had teachers killing themselves by overworking, pre-recording the lessons, putting them on Google Classroom for all the distance learners a full day. And that just isn't necessary. So if you want to record or pre-record and you for whatever reason you can't do live Zooms, then keep it to just the important part, that 20% of whole group. So maybe it's 20 minutes at the most, but you're not recording your 90-minute ELA block. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Okay. So, and again, opportunities should be available for live, real-time interaction between the distance learners and in-person learners. And I saw some great examples of that. I was at a school last week, and they were in a chemistry lab in a high school. And there was one distance learner, and they were doing the actual physical lab in class, and the distance learner was on one of the students' iPads, and they were collaborating in real time. Did you get that? Did you record that? It was really, really neat to see. And then of course that student doesn't feel like they're totally, left out. All right, so tutorial time. This is the fun part. I'm gonna actually show you how to do some stuff. Okay, how are we on time? I'm nervous that I'm gonna run out of time.
We're good.
Right,
we still have about a half an hour.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm actually right on schedule. 2 minutes behind. Okay. So using an emoji keyboard. So this is super easy. So using Google Chrome, you can add an extension. So if you, and I have the link to this in that big thing of links, that slide of links. So if you go to chrome.google.com, or if you search Chrome Store, and once you're in there, search for emoji keyboard, all you do is it will add it to Chrome. And what that does is it adds a little extension up here. So basically, once you have this and you say add to Chrome, which I've already added mine, it's up here. Now, anytime that I click up here, it pulls up the different emojis. So if I wanted to, for example, I'm going to go jump into one of my Google Classrooms here. If I wanted to, I'm going to make a new topic, and I guess I'll hold on, let me slow down. So this is where you get the keyboard. That's just one step. Now I'm going to show you Google Classroom, and we'll come back to emoji keyboard as we're going through Google Classroom. So Google Classroom, this is what it looks like. If you go to classroom.google.com, I'm just going to show you what mine looks like right now. This is just a demo.
And Jennifer, we did have a question about this in the chat. This is a free service that you can go to Google Classroom and sign up. Anyone can use it. They specifically created it for schools and classroom situations. Yeah,
so anyone can have Google Classroom. And that's a great question, because I was worried when I was out of the classroom. How do I move this? There we go. When I came out of the classroom, because I do a lot of tutorials and webinars, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have Google Classroom now. Anyone with a Google account can have Google Classroom. So if you don't have a Google account, you just go to google.com, you make an email account, and then you have access to Google Classroom. And so if you click on the waffle, as I call it up here, the icon is like this, and then it would just be blank. And so you would click the plus button up here to make a new class. And I do have some tutorials on YouTube on Google Classroom. And then I'm sure there's some people that are way better than me on Google Class or with their videos that you can just search online for Google Classroom for beginners or whatnot. So I'm going to show you two different classes, thinking that some of you probably teach just one subject, and then some of you probably teach multiple subjects. So I'm going to go into 4th grade first, and this might be, I realize that it's 4th grade and it looks a little bit young here, but just for purposes of the video. So right now, what the students would see is stream, which is kind of, it's like almost like a social media look to it, where you can announce things to the class, or students can announce back. Now, if you, this is the trick I wanted to show people, because some of you probably use Google Classroom but might not know this. So if you go to settings on Google Classroom, and where it says classwork on the stream, anytime that you post something or assign something
Monday.
or make a comment on something, sorry? Oh, I didn't know if I had a question. So anytime that that you as the teacher does something, it just floods that front screen. It makes it very confusing for the students. So what you can do is, if you click here, you can say hide notifications. So if I said show all attachments, I'll just show you. I don't know if it will retro show you. Oh yeah, okay, see? It'll show all of this stuff, which is confusing for, I mean, it would confuse my 4th grader. She would be confused by this. So to get rid of that, you would just go to the settings under where it says classwork on the stream, and I just say hide that. And now it's all cleaned up and ready to go. So what I could do is I could just have one post for the day with all of what I want to say. Welcome to class. Here's the agenda for the day. Please complete ELA, math, religion, social studies, science, whatever it might be. And then the students would go to classwork. And this is kind of where it's confusing and unorganized, unless you organize it in a way that I'm going to show you. So what you want to do in here is create what's called topics. And so topics, you can kind of think of it as folders or organizers. And so what I normally do is I would set up my Monday through Friday, and I would keep that the same every single week. I would just edit. I wouldn't make new and delete. I would just edit the content in here. I would just change the date to the next Monday. And then you can delete work underneath or hide work underneath each of the days. So if it was, you wanted to archive it, and that's up to you as a teacher. If you feel like, oh, like my students would be so behind, or, you could have 2 weeks going at a time. Or if it's late and it's late work, then that's just gonna be, make up work anyway. But if you're thinking of your class as a whole, you want to just keep it consistent and organized like this. Like I wouldn't have 3 weeks ago work under Wednesday, even though it was on a Wednesday 3 weeks ago. So to create a topic, or let's say, actually, I'm going to go to a different class. We're going to go to religion here. So this is as if if I'm teaching just one subject, or you see how it is religion like this. Some teachers, what they do is on the main screen, on their screen, they might have a different class for each of the subjects to keep it organized that way too. It kind of depends on what grade level you teach. Like I wouldn't have a separate class for a pre-K student. It would just be overwhelming and too much for them. Okay, so let's say I'm making a section here on review, or I'm going to I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to say create, and I'm going to make a topic. And so I'm going to use my emoji here. So I'm going to make a Unit 2 review because I started Unit 1. So I'm going to say this is for religion, and we're going to use the Finding God series from Loyola. So I'm going to say Unit 2 review. Now I want it to be different than the rest, but I want it to be a little bit eye-catching. So what I do is I'm going to click on my extension up here, and I'm going to find something. Let me see what Unit 2 looks like, actually, because I'll just pick an emoji from Okay. Sorry, my computer's a little laggy. Okay. Oops. Let me go. I'm just gonna go right here. Thank you for your patience. All right. Let me say we're gonna go to Finding God. Okay. So if we go to families, there's some really great resources in here that Loyola put up for at-home resources, and they're really great. So let's say we're in 4th grade here. I'm going to click on 4. And so there's multiple different things that I could click on to review. So and this is linked in the slide. So what I want to do right now is have all of the interactive session reviews, the little kind of like games for the students. And so let me just click on Unit 2 to kind of see what the theme is here. Jesus, Lord or Savior. So I might pick something like that's maybe from the cover or from, let me see, this was Unit 1. Well, I'm wasting time, but I would pick something that's relevant to that chapter, whatever it might be. So I'm gonna just pick something. I keep clicking the top thing here. Where are we? There we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna say create topic, and this is going to be Unit 2 review. And so I think I'm just going to click on a butterfly. I don't think I've used a butterfly yet. And I'm just going to go to animals. And I'm going to find the butterfly. And so when I click on it, it's copied. So now it's right in here. And so if I just click paste, I can have it at the front as well. So I'm going to click add. So now I've created a new topic. And so what I would do is I'd move that all the way to the bottom, or wherever you want it to be. And then I'm ready to add to that. So if I wanted to add a session, I'm going to show you how to hyperlink. So in here, we're all in the same page here. And so now you can see it shows up here as well. So students can, click on a specific topic too. So if they just wanted to go to review and they didn't want to scroll to the bottom and they wanted everything to show up, they could do it that way. So I'm just going to say create, and I'm going to create a material. I'm not going to create an assignment. A material is just something that they can view and you can put links in it. So I'm going to call this, so let me go back here because we will call it session 6. So session 6 is the next one here, and it's in Unit 2. So if I want the students to be able to go right to this review game, okay, and it's really cool. It's like a true, false, multiple choice. They can play on it. You can turn it into an assignment if you want. Like you could say, once you receive so many points, take a screenshot and submit. So I'm just going to grab the link at the top here and copy it. And then in here, I'm going to click add a link. And I'm going to add the link there. So add the link. And so I'm going to call this session 6 review. And then you would, please click on the link to review session 6. Okay, I had to stop talking because if I talk and type, I can't get it together. All right, so I'm going to click post. And so then you would, move it down. So you see it is a little bit time consuming as far as Google Classroom goes. It's not modular based like other design softwares, but it's not that bad. So when a student comes in here, if they click on Unit 6, they would just click on the link and it brings them right away to exactly where you want them to go. So pretty easy. All right, so that's that. And then now I'm going to show you how to create kind of these hyperdocs. So in this class here, I have a link here that would have like the Zoom link for every day. It's probably password protected or, whatever it might be. And, but I want to put something up here that tells the students a hyperdoc in case you know, they're going to be sick or they're going to be out one day. So I'm going to go over to these hyperdocs that I created. And so, oops. Okay, so this whole thing is clickable, and you can really link anything, any kind of image. So let's say I'm a religious education teacher at St. Anne, and we have classes for 4th grade on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 4:45. I want to have this on my classroom site, or maybe I send this out as an email to parents at the beginning of class, or not the beginning of the class cycle, because you're within the cycle now, but it's never too late. So I have this kind of set up in a way of, if a student is sick, what to do. Let me go to, actually here, I'll just pull this up. Oh, by the way, the program that I'm using right now is my #1 go-to program. It's free for teachers. Anyone can use it. Every graphic, presentation slide, everything that I've done today is using Canva. It's free. It's free for teachers. It's amazing. Go get yourself an account and you will thank me later. It's very user-friendly and easy. And actually you can set up classes with students as well. Oops. You can set up classes where students can submit work through Canva as well. Okay, so just to show you what this link kind of looks like, or this hyperdoc rather, I'm going to go to the second page. So maybe I would, and if I save this as a PDF, it saves the links. So you don't have to send out this link here. If I downloaded this as a PDF, and I don't think it'll let me download from here, but so how I have
Jennifer, you're saying you could share the link with students or download as a PDF and send that, and they'll be able to access this?
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you. So I could just click download, for example, and I'm going to say PDF print, download. I'm just going to do the second page, download. And you can do this with anything. Like I do these with center groups too, virtual centers. I did a whole PD with our primary teachers, because one of the biggest things that they love to do are small group center rotations. But with the pandemic, you know, it's really difficult to sanitize all the different centers. So we created a hyperdoc that have digital centers. So students would work in partners, and they might be assigned to a specific center on the page, and they would click on that and they would work on the activity. And then when it's time to rotate, they would click on another activity. So even though I've downloaded this PDF, it still is clickable. So is your child unable to attend class today? Please click here to report absence. So you can link forms, Google Forms. So this is just an example. You could, where did it go? There we are. Oh, that's not it, but okay. You could link the classroom that you're in. So maybe, so that way the parent knows, okay, I don't know where the link is and I can't get a hold of the teacher, but I don't want to miss the live. Boom, here it is. You can link, with all the tabs, sorry. You could have the same Zoom time every day. You could have the ebook listed here. Questions for the students could use that to create questions. So this is Flipgrid. It's free. It's free for educators. It's free for everyone, actually. And so the students would, if like they have a question about religion, instead of just typing it, they can record their response. And then you as the teacher would see a video of that student asking about unit 2, and they don't really, understand. And then some of the great resources that they have for parents as well. So we have the at-home textbook version. There's some, and so like I have it linked here for the parents to where they could just click on that. maybe, you know, the teacher's sick. Maybe the teacher's sick and they're having a hard time finding a sub. This is stuff that you could, as the parent would be able to just click on these different resources that you linked, some different games. And here, of course, they have the interactive sessions, and then the Fishers of Faith, which is something new to me, which is really cool and fun. I was playing this with my kids the other day. But it's gamified, but the students can put their name or play together. This could be a perfect center group or that group work time where they could work together. And then I just put another resource here. So I'm going to show you really quick how to do that. So here we are in Canva. And this is an example of, let's say I'm a 4th grade teacher and I teach these subjects. And every single day, no matter what, these are the Zoom times. So if Billy's out of school this week, he knows, and the parent knows that, okay, I know at 10 o'clock, we're going to get on Zoom for ELA. At 12:45, we're going to get on Zoom here. It has the links to their class pages, the link to their ebooks, and then if they have any questions. So how do you do that? So you can hyperlink anything. And so I'll just show you what the link is here. Let's see. So I'll just grab it. I don't want to get the wrong one accidentally. Okay. So if I, this is my class. Oh no, this is not it. Nope, nope, nope. Let's say I want to link to that 4th grade class. Here we are here, and maybe I don't want to go to the home screen, or maybe I do. Maybe I want to go to the classwork. So if that's where I want the students to go, I'm just going to copy the URL up here, and I'm going to select the item that I want to hyperlink. So I say to the students, please click on the homeroom button to view the weekly agenda items. So you click on it, and all you have to do is click the little link button, and then I can paste it in here. Now you can do this also with like a normal document. So if you aren't ready for Canva yet to jump into that, but maybe, let's see, maybe you want, well, I have something downloaded. Let's see, I'm gonna say from files. Pretty sure I downloaded something. Okay, I have this screenshot of, well, let's just use this, Loyola Press. Okay, so if I wanted to link this to Loyola Press's website, all I would do is I have to grab the link first. Okay, so I would just grab, well, I'll just grab this whole thing. Oh, let me see. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this link here, copy it. On the image here, you just right click and you go down to where it says hyperlink. And so then you paste the link in there and say, okay, and then you're done. And so now if you see the little hand comes up, now I can click on it and it would bring the student right to the website. You can do that in PowerPoint, really pretty much any software that's text-based, you can do that. So that's how you can create some links there. And you can really, like I said, do this with really anything that you want. You can even have it go to certain videos. Like if you wanted to do, let's say, we'll just make a new one. We'll say we're going to make a study guide for Unit 2 for the 4th grade class. So I'm just going to say create new design. I'm going to have it be a flyer size. And I'm just going to show you how fast and easy this is. Super, super easy. So you can choose from templates. I'm just going to, actually, I was going to link over to Voyages because I really love their games in here. So let's say I want to do a 4th grade study, like a 4th grade study on different self-practice. So we'll call it 4th grade ELA self-practice. So I'm going to just color this just to have a color. I'm going to add text. You don't have to even have any experience to use something like this. It's so super easy. I'm trying to rush today. I'm like out of time.
Yeah, and while you're setting this up, Jennifer, because we're coming up on about 4 minutes left, all of the resources that Jennifer is sharing will be shared with you after the webinar. We know it's a ton of information, but links to these resources and any sort of instruction around them will also be shared with you.
Okay, thank you. So if I go to elements, let's say I just want, let's say school. I want to find something that is clip art that looks like school. I'm just going to click on it, and maybe this is going to be, where was I in here? Maybe this is going to be nouns. So if I want the students to click on it and play the nouns game, so I'm just going to copy the link, and I'm going to go back here, click on the image, click on the link, paste, apply, and then I could just say noun practice or noun game. Okay, and so you could do that with, you know, with all of those different games. You just, you know, put more images, and then the students, when they have this in your class, or if you decided you wanted to put this in the LMS, for example, you could share the link or download it. So I'm going to share the link, which means that when I go into Google Classroom, I'm in here, I'm going to add it to Classroom Resources. So I'm going to click Create a Material. I'm going to say ELA ELA Practice. And then I'm just going to add the link. Okay, add the link. And then I'll click Post. If I wanted to add extra stuff here, I could, the emojis. I'm going to click Post. And then now if a student, I would put that under Resources. Now I might say, oh, if you're all done with whatever we're doing today, you can go on to the self-practice. They just click on it, and then it brings the students to that live document, where then, of course, we would add more items, but they could click on the noun game. And now you just created kind of like a game, almost like an app simulation there. So I think I am out of time. I did tell y'all it was going to be a little bit fast. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And again, thank you all for joining today. I know this was like a Mod Podge kind of catch-all, but I hope that, one, you learned a new tip or trick. I hope that you saw some sort of technology that maybe you'll look into. And I hope that you can change your mindset a little bit about distance learning. So this is Amanda's contact information from Loyola. If you have any questions, you can contact her. And if you registered for today's webinar, you're going to also receive a link to the recording, as well as the link to all the resources we talked about today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for this presentation. We talked about it before. It's a lot of information. We could probably do a whole series of these.
Yes.
This has been a great start. We really appreciate your experience and your expertise. Just so everyone knows, we're going to collect the questions in the chat and the questions that came from Poll Everywhere, and we'll do our best to respond to them. So if you have questions that were not answered during the presentation, we will do our best to get back to you. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining today.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.